All right, and welcome to Region Weather Live, one of our first that we're going to be doing. Hopefully we can be doing a lot more after this. Been doing weather, been in the business for a while, at least previously before this. Um, you know, was a meteorologist, got my degree originally. Went and worked for Northwest Airlines for a number of years, came to Grand Forks, worked a number of years there, but then kind of got away with it from it once I started having kids and got into a different career all completely. But I never quite lost the um, passion for weather. I've always still wanted to do it. And originally when I went to college and Grand Forks is I wanted to be on air. I wanted to be an on-air meteorologist was sort of my thoughts. But then life sort of took me a different direction and wound up working for an airline and never did make my way to TV. But things change. There's opportunities that arise because dawn of the internet now. We've got YouTube, we've got ways to do live streams. So I still have people that will occasionally ask me about the weather. They know I still love looking at it. They know I still, pay attention to it. They obviously trust me with any advice or, when they want to ask me. So I sort of thought, well, why not? Why not get back into this? Let's give it a go, and maybe this can be the start of something great. Maybe this can grow into something big. But who knows? But first, we got to try, right? We got to start off, and we got to start somewhere. So this is episode one of these live events. And so we're going to take a look at the weather. We're going to see what's coming up. I'm sure on the minds of a lot of people through North Dakota and northern Minnesota is this storm system that's going to be coming through. I'm sure everybody's heard about the winter weather advisories, winter storm watches, and high wind watch that's coming up starting tomorrow. So we'll take a look at that and see where we're all sitting with this next system that comes through, as well as potential of some cold weather that filters in behind that. I had some people talking about that with me, and I had to clear some things up regarding that. Apparently there was a social page out there that said life-threatening 60 to 70 below actual temperatures. That's not going to happen. That would be mighty rare for around here. So I was happy to put the kibosh on that one. But there will be some cold air coming through. So we'll get to that. Let's take a look at some things here. This is just current temperatures right now across the region. You can see a whole lot of teens out in the eastern part of North Dakota, as well as into northern Minnesota. But we've got this line here. You notice the winds off of the eastern parts of North Dakota are kind of out of the south-southeast, and I'll show you another graph that maybe shows a little better. And then off to the west, we've got westerly winds. And look at the temperature still. We're sitting at 9 o'clock at night, and temperatures still in the southwestern parts of the state still in the mid-30s. So definite differentiation there in between temperatures. As I said, we'll take a look at another graph here, and you're going to have to give my computer time to do what it needs to do, just because it is a bit of a slower computer. But hopefully at some point we can upgrade that, and this is going to go a whole lot smoother. But here we are. We take a look at, once again, the temperatures, and notice, again, all these teens and maybe some 20s, but a lot of cold air over here. Meanwhile, further out west, we got 32, 30 in Williston, 20 in Minot, still a little cool, but they also have a little more snow than some of these areas down in the southwest. And I'll show you a graphic to give you an idea where some of that, where most of the snow currently resides. But as you do look to the southwest, 30 in Bismarck, 34 down here in Bowman, Dickinson 35, So plenty of warm air still out there. And what's going to happen now, and we're going to be talking about this as we go along, but you do notice this bit of warm air in here. Some of that, at least in the upper levels, is actually going to shift to the east. So where we have this warm air, some of that's going to be sort of residing up and in through that region come tomorrow. As this next system comes along, it's going to be pushing some warmer air in through the lower to mid levels of the atmosphere, and that's going to be causing the potential for some problems in the form of some mixed precipitation of not only snow, but mixed meaning sleet and freezing rain. That's going to be really hard to pin down, and as I'll show you in a bit, but that's kind of where we're sitting currently at this time. Once again, just we've got the south winds coming up kind of out from Minneapolis up through the valley here. And then we've got a trough in through here and more westerly, some southerly winds. They're kind of all over the place, but mostly they've been out of the west when you get to the western parts of the state. Everybody's pretty light. Some gustier winds down in Fargo. Looks like, they're gusting to 25 knots or so. So that'd be right around 30 miles an hour, close to that. Some gusty winds down in Fargo. So a little bit chilly down there with a temperature at 12 degrees and some 25 to 30 mile per hour gusts. We're definitely seeing some wind chills, probably closer to zero down in that part of the Red River Valley. If I could speak, that would be great. So we're going to take a look at the models. Well, actually, before we do that, we'll just take a quick look at current road conditions. Here we're taking a look at Minnesota. Looks like everybody's pretty good, mostly in the green. Some blue up here near Warren and Stephen and Argyle. And that's just some light scattered snow the way it looks there. Light snow on the roadway. For the most part, it does show dry, but down here you're seeing 220 light snow on the road north of Oslo. But otherwise, pretty well green there. North Dakota, about the same. Some scattered. It's showing some scattered patchy ice from Castleton to just west of Castleton for about 30 miles or so. And then also up and through Cooperstown, Findlay, and then the Devil's Lake, Lakota area. This is showing some scattered snow drifts, maybe some light finger drifts, I suppose, possible if they did get some little bit gustier southerly winds, but I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of problems on the roadways. It's been dry, it's been sunny, and we really haven't had much of an issue now for the last 24 hours. There is that snow that we currently have on the ground. Look at where most of it is. We're looking just kind of grafting on westward Langdon, Bottineau, Minot, Harvey, Carrington, Jamestown, Ellendale, Lisbon, down to Fergus Falls. So everybody in through from Minot over the Devil's Lake Basin, James River Valley, southern parts of the Red River Valley. Some higher snow totals also in the northern Red River Valley as well. I mean, it does look like there's a bit of a decrease in some of that, but we just haven't had quite as much snowfall as some of these areas further out west. And then it does drop off fairly dramatically once you get west and south of Minot. More into the Bismarck, Wissahickon area, and they're actually sitting with not a whole lot of snow there. And I should mention, as we do this, as we continue to have these little live events, if you are following along and you have any kind of input, or say you've been out traveling on the roadways, please give us a heads up. You can see right below there, we've got some things popped up. I got to figure out which way I got to point here. There's our Facebook page at Region Weather Live. The Twitter one will pop up pretty quick. But just a couple of areas where if you ever wanted to give us a heads up as to what you're seeing, those are great areas where you can say, hey, just went down I-94 between Bismarck and Jamestown, road is clear, or whatever you're seeing. Anything kind of helps. We are very much here looking at stuff remotely. I can give you my best guess. I can give you what I really think is going to happen, but ultimately, just like when you see storm chasers, nothing beats having somebody on the ground. So it's great if I can have people kind of follow along, but also and ask questions as to what's going on, but also give me some insight, because not only will that help me, but that'll also help everybody else that's watching as well, because they might have a question and they might be traveling to your area. So we'll have that opportunities to have you help us, as well as hopefully pass some wealth of information on to you as well. So just wanted to put that out there as we go along, as we continue to do these. Please feel free to send us some information. In fact, video and pictures really are worth 1,000 words, because you might say that Bill up in Thief River might say the weather isn't bad, but Chuck will say, oh gosh, it's horrible, and it's just a matter of people having differences of opinion, or even just timing. Bill might have went through when it wasn't bad, and Chuck came through 20 minutes later, and it got significantly worse. So word of mouth is great, but I tell you what, pictures and video sure do make a difference, because that helps people kind of decide on their own what they want to do. They can see the videos and the pictures for themselves, and sort of decide what they should or shouldn't be doing, if they should be traveling or whatever's coming up. We'll move along here, and we'll take a look at the actual forecast that's coming up. So here we are. This is the latest model with the NAM. The NAM is always our short run model. Looks out to 84 hours. That's as far as it goes, but it's usually a little more of an accurate model within those first 2 to 3 days, as opposed to some of the models that are more longer range. So we do look at these once we get into that 3-day window and start to trust these a little more. But this is what this latest run is saying, and this just actually came in this evening. So this is the latest information we have. And that's the other nice thing about the NAM, is it comes in a lot quicker than some of these other models. But here you can see there's actually our little system right there, sitting in Alberta, and that's why we call it, we will be calling it an Alberta Clipper, because it will be coming out and dipping down and scooching off to the northeast eventually, but it's going to originate out of Alberta, and that's why we call it an Alberta Clipper. Clipper because they move so fast. So we're going to kind of move it along. Actually, we're just going to slide the bar here. And again, you're going to have to excuse my computer, because it's going to be taking a while. It's probably going to freak out, and it's going to bug me after a bit. But but we're going to get through it. I'm sure we will. So here you are. Now you've got the system coming out, and the precipitation just starting to come in through western parts of North Dakota. Now this is, you can see the timestamp up in here. It says 18Z. That is 18Z. Z is Zulu time. That is universal time. So I'll just kind of help you along as we go and tell you what time frame. Now this is Monday at 18Z. That is noon on Monday. So and I'll be talking strictly in Central Time as we do this. But so for anybody that might happen to be listening out in western part of North Dakota, just so you know that everything that I'm talking about is in Central Time. So as we can see, precip just kind of starts to move into western parts of the state by noon. And then as we move along here, now we notice one thing to sort of point out here, we'll get some meteorology lessons along the way as we talk about stuff, because this is such a different way of looking at the weather compared to how you see it on the news. The news just breaks it down. They dumbify it. So I am showing you some things that meteorologists look at and how we see them, and maybe give you an idea about why we're thinking or say the things we do, right? So hopefully, eventually, as we continue to do this, you'll also learn, and it'll help everybody out in the end to understand really what's going on. But we see, as we mentioned before, the warmer air kind of being, moving more into that eastern parts of North Dakota into Minnesota as well. How you can kind of tell this on this map, and when we look at this, are these blue lines here, these blue dashed lines on the surface map. This is the surface map. And what these blue lines are thicknesses between 1,000 millibars, which is close to the surface, or down at the surface, just depends on where you are in relation to sea level. But we say 1,000 millibars up to 500 millibars. And so you're talking about 15,000 feet in the air. Now, the closer that the pressure, those two pressures, the 500 millibar pressure and the 1,000 millibar pressure are together, the colder they are. So if you notice, these numbers are lower up here, up in the north, which you'd obviously expect because the colder air is further north, but that means these layers are closer together. And when that happens, you actually have colder temperatures. So as these pressures expand or get deeper, it actually warms up. So that's why you have you have this warm, you have this red line down here. That indicates a little warmer air. And the reason why it cuts off here is you can see this 540 number here. This is called the 540 thickness line that kind of passes in through here. And a lot of times that's what meteorologists use to delineate the difference between snow and rain. And you can see in this case, that 540 line kind of sneaks up in through here and then down. And look at that. Wouldn't you know it? We got snow, we got rain, we got some mix in through here. And I'll zoom in on this later in a bit, just to get a little closer look at really what we're looking at. But here's that 540 line, and it's close sometimes. It gives you a good idea of what you should be looking at. But once again, we can use these thickness lines to see where warmer air is, colder air is. So here we have these warmer air that gets pushed to the north, and actually we could see, we'll kind of learn that after a bit, but there's a warm front that sticks in through here, and then our cold front at this point is kind of back in through here. You notice the lines, the thickness lines are a little closer together, and they're starting to slide down to the southeast. So there's our cold front. Here's everything in between, where we're trying to warm up, and now we've got some rain and some mix that's going to be going on. This is about 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday. So a little lesson there on thickness lines. As we move along, that system continues to move to the east, and then starts to move a little more northeast after a while. And then you can see at this time, now this is about midnight on Monday night, Tuesday morning. So very early Tuesday morning at midnight, everything's turned over to snow at that point, at least according to this model. And I'll show you in a bit again, but there's not a whole lot of snow that actually falls in this, which is typical for a clipper. They usually don't dump a lot of snow, but what they do bring is a lot of wind, and that's really what we're going to need to talk about. You may have heard some other meteorologists on the TV talk about the thicknesses of the pressure. Here, these black lines are lines of constant pressure, and when they're nice and close together, that means it's going to be windier. You can kind of think of this as a balloon, right? You have your high pressure out here and your low pressure here, and the air wants to go from high pressure to low pressure, right? Just like a balloon. You have all your high pressure in your balloon, and you squeeze it, and the air comes out. And the harder you squeeze it, the faster that air shoots out, right? So the difference you have in here, the higher the pressure, the stronger the wind, right? So that's really what's going on here. It's as simple as that. That's essentially what's really going on. And that's why we're going to be seeing some very strong winds tomorrow night into Tuesday morning. Now that system does eventually move out. This high pressure that I was talking about very gradually slides in. Winds kind of die down Tuesday. And as we talked about those thickness lines before, you notice they just keep on sliding further south, and these cold ones just keep on moving into our area, and obviously we we don't want that. Yeah, I'm sure you're about as sick of the cold as I am when it comes to all this. The stubborn high pressure just kind of sits here. It takes a little bit, takes a few days to get out. Here we are Wednesday evening, going into Wednesday night. And by Thursday morning, it's parked right over on top of us. So high pressure, clear skies, right? Not a whole lot of wind because we're right under the high pressure dome, but it is cold. Thursday morning is going to be very, very cold. And I'll show you how cold in a minute as we zoom in here. Let's zoom in and really take a look at the timing of things and where some of this precip is going to fall and exactly how cold some of this is really going to get. Again, you have to give this a little bit of time to load up. And we are going to take this step by step. So here we are in the region. This is tonight. Let's just jump ahead, right? Let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to the morning. This is 6 o'clock in the morning. So it doesn't show anything yet according to this model. Let's just take a quick look at the HRRR, which is actually a very fine-tuned model, even narrows things down even more. And it takes into account very local effects. And I'll show you some examples of that in a bit as well. So, but again, very good for looking at for short range. So here the two models agree. This is 6 a.m. Monday morning, so tomorrow morning. Let's jump ahead. We're going to go to about noon. Actually, maybe we should jump back a little bit because that precip does move into the western part of the state a little bit quicker. So here we are at 9 a.m. and precip's just starting to move into the northwestern part of the state, right? And it looks like we got a mixed bag that we're going to be starting off with. Very light, not a whole lot going on there, but still, that's that model. We're going to jump back to our NAM just to see if that coincides with the same thing. And it's showing some rain, but some mixed precip back to the southwest. So probably about 9 o'clock in the morning, we'll get rid of that, is when we can expect to see the potential for some precipitation. What we're taking a look at here is just the sounding. And this red line is the temperature, and the green is the dew point. So these two are still pretty far apart here. Let me adjust that a bit. Okay. And just because now you can see it a little better. You can see these, the temperature and the dew point here are still pretty far apart. That means it's still fairly dry at the low levels. So the chance of anything really happening at this point, northwestern North Dakota, not great. But you do notice here is the 0 degree line, and the temperature kind of gets above that and then goes back down. And that's going to be important eventually as we talk about some of the stuff in a bit. Jump back there. So once again, let's jump ahead to noon now. So obviously that other run, that HRRR model, had precip into North Dakota, and it looks like our NAM does as well. It starts off bringing in some rain and some freezing rain as well. We'll take a look at the sounding once again, and it does say freezing rain down in here, as you notice. We'll scroll down. And if you could take a look once again, there's our 0 degree line right through here. Now, you can imagine the snow falling, right? And it's coming down, and it hits that 0 degree line. Well, obviously, what's going to happen is it's going to melt a little bit. How much it melts just determines on how long it sits. Just on the warm side of that 0 degree line, right? The longer it sits into the melting area, the more chance you have that it's going to be rain, correct? Sometimes you have it where it melts just a little bit, it just kind of melts a little bit, and you get what is called graupel. And essentially it's just the snowflake just, melts enough just to turn into these little balls of, snow or ice or whatever you want to call it. And sometimes what happens is it melts, and this layer is far enough, high enough in the atmosphere that once it continues to fall, and if the temperature below that little area is cold for a long enough period of time, it refreezes, and that is sleet. And in this case, it doesn't have time to refreeze. So what happens is it melts a little bit, and it continues to fall as rain, and it falls on areas that are 30 degrees. So that's where we get our freezing rain. So it looks like this is basically indicating the potential for some freezing rain up and through Williston. And I guess I'd be a little surprised maybe if it happened in Minot, just because they do have a fair amount of snow. And they are saying freezing rain, so I don't know why it's depicting rain there, but so I would say a lot of this area in through here, Williston, Minot, Stanley, you're all going to be looking. It just depends on what time some of this stuff moves in, as to whether you're going to be seeing rain or freezing rain or what exactly it's going to be. As we click along on the timeline here once more, we'll go along another 3 hours. So we're talking at 3 p.m. on Monday. And we'll get some precip that just starts to make it into the northeastern parts, or the northern part of the Red River Valley, in through the Devil's Lake Basin, down through Bismarck, Washburn area, and then down into Bowman. A lot of mixed type of precip going on through here. Now, we'll take a look at the temperature and what it thinks the temp's going to be at that time. That's going to help us determine a few things, as well as, for one thing, if it is going to snow down here, temperatures are still above freezing, so it's not going to stick. It's going to be very wet type of snow. It's not really going to hang around. Take a look at this sounding. Yeah, it was very much a snow sounding. Then very decently moist, but still, they're just, not much is going to stick around. Maybe some stuff that would kind of dust the grass, I suppose, a little bit if it snows heavy enough for a long enough period of time. But otherwise, really nothing to be concerned about there. But this model showing, generally 30s most places until you get into that Red River Valley area where temperatures in these blue areas are all below freezing. We jump back to our precip. And we've got a mix of precip that is going on at that same time. So it just depends on what exactly the temperature is when the precip is falling. It's going to be very hard to determine what's going to fall when, but just, I would say most areas, especially in the north, look out for just a mixed bag of precip, rain, sleet, snow, maybe even some freezing rain. And you might have an area where people have rain and 30 miles away it's freezing rain. It's just based on topography. So really kind of hard to pin down, but this just kind of gives you at least a general idea of what to expect and what to look out for. As we click along one more, and we go into 6 o'clock on Monday evening. And again, mixed precipitation in the north, some snow further back in the south and west. Now that's a bit of a change compared to what I saw in the previous model. The previous model did have more mixed precip hanging back in through these areas. Well, that failed. So that is something to consider, at least, that 6 o'clock in the evening, even though this is still showing snow. Now, part of the reason might be that we could take a look at what it thinks the actual, like if we were to look at a radar, what that might look like. Now, part of the reason might be is it looks pretty heavy, like the radar would look like we might have an intense area of snow going on. When that happens, or the precip going on, and when it does get intense, a lot of times that cools the atmosphere off, and it'll be more snow than anything. So that's probably what this is picking up in through here, why that is depicting some snow. And we get this line in through here just because it is a little bit heavier. So probably there's a chance that that's going to be snow, instead of rain or freezing rain. When it's a little lighter, a little drier, that's when we kind of get into that area of the gray area. Now it does show some rain in through the northern parts of the Red River Valley. I don't know. Just because we do have a lot of snow, the temperatures do warm up, but they don't warm up that much. I don't know that a lot of areas are going to see above freezing. And if it does, it's going to be short-lived. And not only that, roadway surfaces, a lot of areas are still going to be cold. It's just been cold here. So even if it does warm up, you might get a brief area where it does rain, but then it's going to cool off quickly and basically refreeze. So no matter what, even if you're seeing rain, it's not going to last long, and chances are the roads are just going to get slippery anyway, right? Because this is North Dakota and Minnesota. So by this time, most of the precip looks like it's through the northern parts of the state with some lingering down the south. Again, maybe some light accumulations, very light, down and through Bismarck and yeah, I don't know, maybe some in Bowman if it snows heavy enough. But I really think that's getting a little bit far away from the actual low itself. Most of the snows tends to stay closer to these systems, to these Alberta Clippers. So I think most of the precip itself, the snow, the heavier snow, will be further north. But you could still see some in through here, in through those regions. As we move along here, and we're talking midnight now, snow still around. Here's that cold front sitting right through here, right? Actually, and it's kind of a double-barreled cold front. We got one in here and another one further north. And that's really the problem there, is the systems that come through that have two cold fronts. Oftentimes when this second one starts to move through is when it really, really gets windy. And that is very, very typical for these type of systems, that they would have a secondary cold front, and it gets so much windier on that second one. So it starts to pick up. Let's redraw this. Again, this is midnight, so probably will start to pick up back and through here around midnight, and then you get it even stronger further to the north at that time. And these areas are going to be sliding down to the southeast as we move through the time frame. Once again, just kind of clicking along here, moving along the time. Now we're going to be looking at 3 a.m. on Tuesday morning, and most of the snow is kind of starting to move out of the area. Some through Thief River Falls, International Falls, War Road is still lingering in through there. Winds aren't quite picking up at that time. I guess that's the only good thing, is where the heavier snowfall is. Won't be quite as much wind, but where it does snow, obviously that just means more to blow around, as if we don't have enough already. And then by 6 in the morning, Tuesday, most of that snow is out, but we are really starting to kick up, really starting to crank that wind at this point. And then basically at that point, that low moves out, high pressure moves in, and it's going to get cold. So let's just take a quick focus on the winds here. And we'll do a temperature and wind barbs at the same time. And my nice and slow computer. And we're going to jump to 9 o'clock in the evening, Monday night. So blue area is all freezing, right? So this is where it thinks it might still be above freezing. This is again 9 p.m. And we're going to jump ahead to 3 a.m. on Tuesday morning. And now the winds are going to be cranking. They're really going to be moving at this point, right? Everything's out of the west-northwest, and these wind barbs are showing 25 knots. So we're looking at 30 mile per hour sustained winds possible at this point for most or to all the areas throughout North Dakota. As we continue to move this eastward and we get to 6 a.m. on Tuesday, everybody's going to be windy. It's going to be really gusting out at that point. And if we take a look at what it thinks the wind gusts will be, and now these are in miles per hour. And it's saying 45, 40, 40, a lot of 40s, generally right around 44, this particular model. But I actually think, and the Weather Service has been on board with this, is that those winds could actually be even gustier than that. And I'll show you why in a little bit. Here's that other model, that HRRR, and you can see these streaks in through here. So it does take in some topography. You can see the Sisseton Hills here, so a little peak just along the hill, followed by a decrease just on the other side. So you see it tries to take in some terrain into the equation as to what it thinks the winds are going to be. So again, this is 6 a.m. and wide range of 40 to some 50 mile per hour gusts in there. Again, going to show you why it could be even more than that. But this model is saying, at this point, definitely looking at gusts over 40. Now here's the problem. Remember I mentioned we have some freezing rain and rain up in the north? Now we're adding gusts over 40 miles per hour. So if we do get any ice accumulation, if it does accumulate for any sort of small amount of time, and you got some winds on there, you might see some small branches down, which could mean the potential some power loss. So that's something to keep in mind as we go through this, especially across the northern parts of North Dakota. Hopefully it doesn't rain that much, but if it does warm up to that point to where some of this falls as rain or freezing rain, that's going to be a concern with these winds for as high as they're expected to gust. Once we move it along and we get to about closer to the noon time, this is going to be actually 9 a.m. or so, starts to drop off a little bit. Some gusty winds still in as we head through, what is that, Wilmer St. Cloud area. But by and large, the trend, at least for us at this point, for 9 o'clock in the morning, is a downward trend. By noon, you'll see even more so. Again, this is still that HRRR, but the NAM also shows basically the same thing, that by noon, these winds are going to be decreasing, and then you'll probably see more of a decrease into the later parts of the afternoon on Tuesday. So still expecting a lot of wind overnight Monday night, late Monday night, in through Tuesday morning, and then a gradual decrease throughout the day and into the evening. Now, even here, you're still looking at, this is 3 p.m. on Tuesday, and you're still seeing gusts maybe to 30. That's going to still cause some drifting, and with all the blowing, probably going to take some time for these roads to open. So if we do have true blizzard conditions and we shut down some of these roads, it's going to take a while, just because it's going to be so gradual. And even with the 30 mile per hour winds, you can expect some gusts. So it might be that Tuesday's not going to be, a real great time to get anywhere. Now, I did mention the possibility of these, the winds being stronger, and I'll show you why. We're going to back up one more time. And I like to focus on these winds just because they are so strong, and I want to show you what's going on with these, or why the concern is there, essentially. And this just takes a little bit, so please be patient. Here's our surface winds, and I'm going to draw on this. I'm just going to give you a little guide as to, again, what we're kind of looking for. So again, Tuesday morning, 6 o'clock. This is the NAM, so it's saying sustained winds of 20 knots. So about, sustained winds 20 to 25 miles per hour, right? And the wind direction is generally out of the northwest, kind of moving like that. Now we're going to go and we're going to look at the winds just a few thousand feet above that. And you're going to notice that the wind direction is going to be pretty close to the same. Now we'll take a look at this, and these wind barbs are all pointing at about the same direction. Now that means they're still coupled, meaning, you know, if I have winds coming at you like this at the surface, and then just a few thousand feet above, they're both going, you know, the same direction. Obviously, that's going to create some gustier winds. There's not as much friction there. Now, if I change the wind direction a little bit, and the surface wind's coming at you, and a few thousand feet above, it's kind of crossing, you get a bit of a friction going on there, and it actually slows down the wind. So the fact that these are still coupled, as we call them, still going the same direction, gives you the likelihood that some of these winds are going to mix down. And we're looking at wind barbs here, just a few thousand feet off the ground, of 40 to 45 knots. So that's over 50 miles per hour. Now we're going to go up to 5,000 feet, where there's even generally just, you know, as you go up in the atmosphere, typically the winds increase. And here you notice they're a little off from the surface, but not too much. And these wind barbs are showing 50 knots. So we're looking at closer to 55 mile per hour winds. Some decrease because they're not quite as coupled. So, but I think generally we're going to be seeing gusts, you know, in some areas at 50 or above at times, maybe even 60. We could maybe go up even beyond that and go 10,000 feet in the air, and just to see how close they are in direction in that. And even that's fairly close. And now you're looking at, actually the winds decreased a little bit there, but still, just because they're so coupled, just because everything's going generally in the same direction, you know, we're going to be looking at gusts over 50 miles per hour. So that's why I think, you know, even though you know, some of these models, the wind gust model showed 40s, maybe some 50, I think really we have some potential to reach gusts over 50 miles per hour. And one more thing we'll take a look at in the short term, cold temperatures that are going to be coming in behind this. Obviously, northwest winds, colder air. And, you know, as we take a look at this, is again at 6 o'clock Tuesday morning. And we're going to jump ahead, and we'll go to about 3 p.m. on Tuesday. And we're going to notice the temperatures actually are not really going to rise too much throughout the day. They might actually fall in a number of areas. So, you know, don't look for, you know, obviously with northwest winds, temperatures are just going to fall. As we continue on, once, if you remember that high pressure system that really starts to settle in, here we are Wednesday morning. We'll take a look at Wednesday at 6 o'clock in the morning. We're going to see lows generally in the minus teens throughout much of the area, to just some single digits below zero in the southwest, where there isn't a whole lot of snow. And highs for Wednesday probably won't warm up a whole lot, but I mean, there's still going to be some warmth, but just not much the way it looks. Let's jump back one more time frame. But we're still going to be seeing, you know, highs probably 10 below zero for the most part. And there's probably your highs for the day on Wednesday. Thursday, when that high pressure system really starts to sit over us, really gets cold, that's going to be our coldest night. So here we are, and actually this model has actually warmed it up a little bit from what I saw previously, but this is actual temperatures, 30 below zero across much of northern North Dakota and through the Red River Valley, teens below zero, even down in the southwestern part of the state. That's cold. Wind chills, we're going to take a look at that once this pops up and gets done thinking after a bit. Wind chills, minus 40 through the northeast, and minus 50 up here in, what is that, Botno, I believe. Possibly up there to minus 20 down in the southwest, and these are wind chills for Thursday morning. So that's going to be our coldest morning, and obviously we're not going to be looking forward to that. Now, is there going to be some relief along the way? Well, sort of. I talked to a couple people before as to what was going to go on with this cold air, and it looked like it was going to come in with the potential of sticking around for a little bit. Now, that doesn't look to be quite as likely now. I guess the models have kind of changed, and remember I said we need to wait a little bit before we really decide what's going to happen with some of this, just because it is getting into a little bit, tougher time of year, on top of this is such a bit of a complex weather pattern that we've got going on here. So we've got a couple of things that really make these longer range models, it makes it difficult for these to really pick up on what's going to happen. Again, so this is a large file. This is a lot of stuff that, a lot of time steps that this needs to move through. So I'll just let it load. But generally, so now we've got, here's a jet streak in through here, another one in through here. And you can think of it as the warm air actually sits on the south end of these jet streams. So anytime you can get under here, it's going to be a little bit warmer. This is going to be a little bit warmer than it is up in through that region, right? So, so as we take a step through some of these time frames, and my computer continues to think. And you can see this southern jet kind of moves off to the north and east, which means, as we expected, warm air moving in, just like we were talking about. That dome of warmer air kind of shifts from over here, and through the day tomorrow, sits more over into the eastern parts of North Dakota and through Minnesota. So kind of on the southern end of this jet, I guess. When we have these ridging is when we have warmer air. Now we have these troughs, that means colder air. And if we continue to push these into motion, here comes the next trough, brings in some colder air, some Arctic air back on the north side of that. And looks like it's finally caught up. So we're going to kind of slide this along. And you can see this is Thursday morning. This is when it's going to be its coldest. Now, again, this is up at the upper levels. This is 30,000 feet, but this is kind of what really drives our weather, essentially. So we're going to first take a look at this. Now the jet moves off to the north and east again. We sit underneath the south side of that jet stream, which means more warmer air. This is Friday. And then another trough comes through, knocks that down, some colder air in through the weekend. Jet stream moves off to the northeast. We sit under it, warms up a little bit. Next little system comes through, knocks it down, colder air again, right? And then once we really get out there, and we're talking now, at this point, this is February 15th. I mean, we're really getting out there a ways. It doesn't really look like a pattern shifts or changes from that a whole lot until you get way out there, when you get more of a what's called a meridional flow, which means instead of this pattern where we're sitting like, more west to east, where the jet just kind of ripples a little bit and moves along. And then once we get further out, now we've got these deep troughs and high ridges. So maybe there's potential changing out in the future, but that's so far out that that's going to change 50 times by the time it gets out there. So we'll see if that actually happens. But what we do know for sure is that we're going to be warming up, cooling off. System move through. That system moves up, or moves closer, warms up, passes. It's going to get colder. And it just kind of continues that trend over the next week or so. Nothing really seems to want to change. We're going to change to a different model and zoom in a little bit and just get a look at exactly what we're expecting for temperatures. So once again, give me a little bit of time, and what we're also looking at potential for any kind of snow as well. which I'll tell you right off the bat, it doesn't really look like we're going to be seeing a whole lot. These systems are going to be coming out of the northwest, out of the Canada, which means they're going to be really dry. It's come on, let's think a little bit. Which means, instead of coming out of the south or west when it's pulling up some of this Gulf moisture, it's coming out of Canada where, it's wrung out all this moisture as it crosses the Rockies. So it doesn't really have a chance to carry anything significant with it. So we're just going to take a look at now the precip, sort of like we were doing before, and we're just going to step it through and see what the long range models show for this. And as we're waiting here, I'll just remind you, please don't hesitate to ask any questions as we go through this. As you see this on YouTube, type something in there. If you happen to know my phone number, if you're one of those lucky ones, you can sure go ahead and give me a text there. Again, don't forget, we have these, there's region weather, there's a Twitter handle, reach out to me there, follow me on there, send me a message there, follow me on Facebook. Don't forget to, go there as well. And then also on this YouTube page, down below, you'll see as a like button. Please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe, and once you hit subscribe, hit the little bell button beside that, because that'll let you know when I'm online. Anytime I'm online and you're on YouTube, it'll show you, hey, Brad's online. I'm going to jump on right now because I know he's got something to say. That's very important. Trust me. So again, as we step along, there's our system that moves out here this week. High pressure moves through. Little system moves in possibly on Saturday. Doesn't bring a whole lot of snow. Oh, I forgot to talk about the amount of snow, didn't I? We'll get back to that. But here you can see just a few system after, low pressure, high pressure, high pressure, low pressure. Not a whole lot of snow associated with any of these quick little systems that move through. Maybe, one tomorrow and then possibly the one next weekend. But that's kind of far out to really decide if that's going to be any type of weather maker on its own anyway. So we're not really concerned about that, but just it's something to, I guess, keep an eye on, just to see if any of these systems really develop into anything more than just, a quick few flurries or very light snow. Temperature-wise, as we go out to the extended, that's what we're going to eventually look at here once my system loads up. And I'm just going to click play here to help show you what happens here. So this is Tuesday, Wednesday, this is Thursday morning, quite cold, as we had said before. Now this is Saturday, warms up again, cools off on Monday, warms back up on Tuesday. Wednesday chills off a little bit, but even look at that as you get to the later part of what is not this week, but the week after, or the early part, I should say, of next week. At least according to this model, looks like it wants to potentially warm it up. So that's great. We do cool off here. We get into some of this very cold Arctic air that moves in on Thursday or Wednesday into Thursday, kind of lingers in through Friday, and then moves out late Friday into Saturday. Some colder air maybe. Into the later part of the weekend or early part of next week. Let's see here, Thursday. Yeah, and then it warms up into next Tuesday. So we'll see if that happens. You can see how these models shift. Earlier, I thought we have the potential of really being in this Arctic air, but I wasn't sure, or for a lengthy amount of time, and I wasn't sure. And now it's looking like these models are sort of backing off on that. So that's good. Well, hopefully that continues. But I really think that seems like a more realistic solution, at least at this time of year. We're jumping back into the NAM real quick, just because what we didn't take a look at was the amount of snow that's expected. um, as this system moves through tomorrow. Not really expecting a whole lot generally with these clippers. As the guy I used to work with used to say, you forecast 1 to 3 inches. If you think it's going to be 6, it's going to be 1 to 3. If you think it's going to be, 1, you're a dusting, you say it's going to be 1 to 3, and that's just generally what you go with. So here I'm just dragging it way out to the back end of this model's run, and you can see most of this. Let's actually back off a little bit because it looks like it does want to bring in a little bit of snow on the back end of this time frame. But anyway, with this, like I was saying, maybe a dusting out in the southwest. Most areas are going to be an inch or so, maybe 1 to 3 inches into northwestern Minnesota. So Thief River, War Road, International Falls. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on that town up there. But that's where they have the most potential, or seeing the highest potential of 3 inches. But generally with these systems, they're very dry, they're very quick moving. They don't drop a lot of snow. Really all they are is just kind of they drop a lot of wind. They bring a lot of wind with it. We're going to take a look at the ice just to see what this model depicts as far as the ice accumulation and anything we really need to look out for. And it doesn't really accumulate any ice, so that's a good thing. Even though it depicts it on the type of precip that it's going to have, it doesn't really say it's going to accumulate much. So hopefully that it really is the case. It's just going to have to be something we're watching out for as to whether or not it is able to warm up enough to get rain or not. I think most of it will be snow. I really do, but I think there's that possibility that some areas are going to get some freezing rain or even some freezing drizzle out ahead of this. So there's going to be a little bit of a problem in spots across the north, but I really think most of this is going to fall as snow, just because we have been cold. We have a fair amount of snow on the ground. It's going to be tough, even at the few thousand feet off the ground, to get warm enough to create rain. So that's kind of where I'm going with that. Really, the ultimate story with all this is going to be the winds, and how we're going to be most likely seeing some blizzard conditions from the Devil's Lake area, James River Valley, in through the Red River Valley, and in through especially northwestern parts of Minnesota, if they're going to pick up another 3 inches of snow. Some of these areas off in the southwest, they've got a layer of crust on them because they did see some above freezing temperatures. So mostly what they're going to be dealing with is just the high wind. And that's why, if I can pull this up and figure this out quick. And I won't be able to because, maybe this is it. I'll give this a little bit of time to load here. But that's why areas in the western parts of the state are just going to be seeing high wind warnings. They're not really concerned as much about the snow. So, so that was about an hour's worth and a lot of information there. Part of the problem, obviously, like I said before, was just dealing with the timing of, or the slowness of my computer. If I could get that to run a little faster, that would be great, because I had more things pulled up and just ready on cue, and it would just kind of flow a little better. But also it's me. I need to figure out timing and what's interesting and what you like, and just getting comfortable with this again. It's been a long time since I've done anything like this, so I'm really going to be, this is going to be a bit of a learning curve, but hopefully you like what I had to say. Hopefully you found it useful. Please, once again, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, tell your friends about it. We're going to get better at this. We're going to get more viewers. The more people we get, the better, because they can help us out as well. We can help them out. They can help us out. And as we go along, if we're able to do this during the actual system, I'll take a look at some webcams that I know of and just show what the conditions are currently like so you can get a feel for what's out there. And there's some other places people can look, or that I know where I can look as far as Twitter goes, that can show me, give me some information on what is going on when these systems move through. So there's our high wind watch out in the central and western parts of the state. Winter storm watch starts tomorrow at 3 p.m. and goes until, I believe, 9 a.m. the next day. 3 p.m. the next day, which makes sense because, like I said, that drifting really is not going to stop. This white area, special weather statement, just because winds probably won't be quite as bad out there and through these counties. So it looks like they just issued a special weather statement for them for now. So there you have it. Thank you for watching. I hope once again you enjoyed it. Please like all my social media pages. Keep following me. This is going to be great. I'm really excited for this. I'm hoping this works, just because this is still what I love to do. This gets me excited. So I'm hoping it's going to be valuable information to you as we continue to do this. And let me tell you, I've got some big things planned. So the more this takes off, hopefully, I'll just say for now, hopefully there'll be some big things down the road. So again, thanks for watching. Good night.